Welcome to another Biddle on Saturday night, April 13th, where this is a doubleheader where we had the Europe edition earlier, a few hours ago. A few of you were there, a few of you weren't, but hey, you can always watch the video later. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Doing very well, thank you.
Excellent. How about you?
Peachy King.
I am doing fabulous. I'm here with you guys. What else could I be doing? All right. We had a great discussion on the Europe edition about file managers.
Sound is good.
Awesome. Thank you very much. About file managers and web browsers and hardware. So I guess maybe we'll get into some of that later to see your guys' opinions on everything. But we did say we were going to talk about file managers this week. Mm-hmm. Okay, Dolphin's the best. End of discussion. Next. All right. I guess
Tyrant doesn't mean you get away with that.
I guess we have to talk about it, even though Dolphin is the best. Who wants to go first? You takers?
I'll go first.
Barbara, go ahead. Tell us what your favorite file manager is and why.
Okay, I like the one that comes with Mate, the Kaya, I think it is. However it's pronounced, but that one. And I just really like it. When I've tried something that has Thunar, I have to get rid of it immediately. Can't stand it, drives me crazy. It's because it just seems to be like that's missing things. And I had a discussion this afternoon, a short one with, I don't even remember who. Was it Eric or it was Eric?
Yep.
About the pane preview, the preview pane.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, what I was thinking of was on my Mac, Finder has the preview pane, and I love it. And it does only if you put Kaya in icon view do you get at least your photos, but it doesn't really. You're right, really doesn't have a preview pane.
Yeah. Unless
there's an extension you can get, and I just didn't get a chance to look for that.
Not that I've seen, but yeah, that's really what I had in mind.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I do miss with it. Other than that, I really, really like it. And I use it, and it works for me. And there are just some others I just don't like.
Martin was on the stream earlier, and he went on for about 5 minutes of the reasons why we should use Kaja. So there were many, and some including some that I didn't realize, like the plugins that Kaja has for different services and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I have some of those installed, and they work really, really well. And it's stable, and it doesn't do funky things.
Funky things.
Funky things. Yeah.
All right. One vote for Kaja. Chris, are you there?
I'm here.
What is your favorite file manager, dude, and why?
Well, they're all my children. I've been really getting into VIFM, which is a command line file manager, much like Ranger, but it works a lot better. It uses the Vim key structure, so your HJ, K, and L do into a directory, out of directory, up, down. Shift G goes down to the end of the screen. GG goes up to the end of the screen. You want to copy a file, you yank it. Stuff like that. It's just the Vim commands that you're used to, if you are used to them. Do what they do in Vim, and you can have multiple buffers going on. And by default, you have two different. You have your left and right pane going as well, and you can switch between those two. You can have one pane up. It's very configurable. You have to go in to the config files to enable a preview and also enable a graphical preview. You can bring up pictures and stuff like that in there, whatever application you have set up for that, be a GIMP or a viewer or whatever. but for a preview, you have to add in a module and put that in, and that how you do that is all over on Derek's channel on DT's DistroTube's channel, and how to set that up. And he does a really good job in explaining how to get that running.
Nice, very nice. Probably not something that I'm going to use, but very nice for you. Vash, do you have
Let's go to Peter and then come back.
Sure. Peter, you were going to tell us your favorite file manager. You're on mute, sir.
So I'm getting used to unmuting and with a click a keyboard. Loving the keyboard. Okay. As mentioned on a Euro chat, my favorite file manager of all time, forget Linux, of all time, is something called Dirworks, which was part of an Amiga suite. I just loved it. I had 2 panels. I had a range of buttons at the bottom. You could program all the buttons, and I used it all the time when I was using the Amiga. There's a program called Directory Opus, which I think you can get for Windows, actually, which is on Amiga 2, and that was a great program. And last week when we announced our favorite file managers as a kind of challenge, I went looking for something that would be similar on Linux. And I found it with a program called Worker, which is 2 panels, has a whole range of buttons, very programmable, very customizable, and I'm loving it so far. I want to use it a lot more. It's distro. It's not tied to any distro. It uses X Windows, and my challenge to myself is to not use Nautilus, but use Worker and Terminal instead. A lot more.
Okay. Another interesting choice. Very nice. Vash, can we come back to you or what?
Yes, we're good. So my particular choice needs no introduction. It has been around for a long, long time. It is, of course, Explorer.exe. And my reasons are, no, I'm not going to continue the joke. So ultimately, I was thinking about this a lot, and I just didn't get a chance to really put in the time to try to make a full list. I tend to prefer Nemo, but I find Nemo and Dolphin to both be really good. It just depends on kind of which one you want. You got the right click as root for Nemo in there by default, and you don't have that in Dolphin, and you got the terminal in there by default for Dolphin, and you kind of have to add that on Nemo. So I want to go back and watch Martin talk about the one for Mate, just to kind of get a better idea of what that one is, because I just haven't used it. But it kind of just occurred to me that ultimately, I just feel like there's that tier of, unless you're going to go with the command line interface and it's different, but there's that kind of tier of Dolphin, Nemo, and probably that one. I can't think of how to say it. What is it? Kaju?
Kaja or Kaja. Depends on how you want to say it, really.
Right. So I kind of feel like that's kind of the top tier for most people, and then most people don't want to go to Thunar, Nautilus, things like that. And it just depends on what's a hang up for you or not, I think, ultimately. But I don't know that I'd have to if I have to pick one, I guess I'll just pick Nemo just to counter Rocco's Dolphin vote. But
whatever.
I don't know that there's really, to me, there's several good options to ultimately choose from.
There is, and that's a great point. And like I said, there was a lot of things that you don't normally hear about Kaja, about its flexibility and stuff. So there's a lot of good choices. We're fortunate to be able to choose which one we want to use. So, Colin, Dolphin is the best, right?
Oh yes. It was 5 reasons we're giving, right? Rocco? Is that correct?
5 reasons,
okay,
yes.
Okay, well, open as root, open as root, open as root, open as root, and open
I guess
as root.
Dolphin's not the best then. Huh?
All right, now back to the serious stuff. Yes, that's one of them, but also F3. It has Nemo has F3, which is the extra pane, split the screen. With the F3 key. It also has the copy to and the move to feature, and also browse feature within that as well, which is really handy. You can also bookmark folders, which I think a lot of file managers will do that today anyway. The other thing it has is, I don't know if a lot of other ones do this, but when you right-click any type of document, it will recognize the document and have on the right-click context menu open with the respective application. So that's another feature it has. And it has folder colors.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, I've actually found a use for that and did a bit of a video on it, but a lot of people might find it as a waste of time, but it does come in handy for just little niche things there that I need it for. So for me, it's Nemo.
Okay. A vote for Nemo. Now, obviously mine's Dolphin. Okay. So, I can sit here and I can, say Dolphin all day long, but there are reasons why I like Dolphin. Okay. One is the customizability. So pretty much anything on the screen in Dolphin you can customize, which you can't do for other file managers. Most file managers like Thunar and I don't know about Kaja, you can't customize much of anything. It is there the way it is, and that's pretty much it. You can show or hide anything in the sidebar. You can change the icons in the sidebar. You can enlarge or shrink the icons in the sidebar. One of my favorite features of Dolphin is that you can change the icons for each specific folder, and then unlike where you would bookmark a folder, you can just drag whatever folder into the side pane anywhere you like and set it anywhere you like. Unlike bookmarks, where it just goes where it wants to go in that specific area, and that's it. And it will also pick up that custom icon that you used for that folder. So I have a specific icon for my computer folder. I drag it over into the left pane, and it picks up my custom icon there as well. You said about the F3 and the side pane, or the split pane, that also is available in Dolphin. The open with everything basically that I have seen so far in Nemo is there in Dolphin, except for the open as root. That I'll have to give you, because that used to be there and they took it out, and there's nothing I can do about that. You can add...
That was a feature, Rocco. It was a feature.
It was a feature, and they pulled a gnome on me. But no, going along with the customizability, you can make any setting in, like if you go into, say, if for Nemo, tools preferences, but in Plasma it would be control preferences or edit preferences. You can make any setting in that area a button on the top of the file manager. So for example, one of the buttons I usually make is a hidden files button. So that way, all I got to do is click the button to show hidden files and not have to worry about a shortcut, which is one of the things I love about Dolphin. Customizability. Has the panes, the terminal pane, which is awesome. Places, information, folders, and the per folder settings. So I don't think you can get much better besides open as root than Dolphin. That's my opinion. Eric, what do you think?
I think you just took all of my points.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So last week we said 5. I came up with 7. I stuck a screenshot of this in the Telegram chat earlier, but basically, so I thought about, why do I like Dolphin so much? And I looked at what are the features that I use in there all the time, and why is it that when I go to a different desktop environment or a different file manager that I find myself looking for them and not finding them. So I did a little matrix chart of the different options. And so the 7 that I came up with were per folder view setting, which you mentioned. And that basically just means if I set it to be thumbnails in pictures or videos, and then I want under my downloads to be details, it just remembers all of those. Whereas in many other file managers, if you change that setting, it just sort of follows you, and you have to keep changing it back and forth and back and forth. And they all have a keyboard shortcut to do it, but I want it to always be thumbnails. So why do I have to do that? So that's one of them. Icon list and detail views. not just detail and icon. Layout customization, which you covered, which is absolutely true. You can grab any piece of it and move it to another area. Split view, display full path in the view, and many of them have that, but that's one that I generally like to have. The preview pane, which Barb and I talked about, and then extensibility with add-ons. And so many of the other file managers have some of these features, but to my knowledge, none of them have all of them, like Dolphin does. So maybe that's the KDE way, where there's just an option for everything, versus other philosophies like GNOME, where it's just sort of they give you what you need, and you don't get anything else. I would agree with that more if there was a way for me to extend that, but I think that's why when I go to GNOME, when I go to Thema, Thunar, some of these other ones that I have those problems. And I will also say that it came up on the Europe edition, but Kaja definitely has a lot of great features. I just haven't spent much time in Mate or Mate to know about it. So it actually inspired me to spend a little bit more time in Mate. So that's what I got.
Okay, can I say something with respect to Rocco, when you were saying, like with Dolphin, you can take that left-hand pane and set it up any way you want? I found out you can do that with Kaja, but you actually can't do it just like right from the it's not as easy that way, right from the file manager. There's a config file that you can change and add and all that kind of stuff to. And I discovered it when I had somehow lost in my left-hand pane my documents folder. It was there, but it wasn't in the left-hand pane.
Right.
So that was when I found out that there's a file that you can just go in and edit.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Very nice. Mm-hmm. All right, Adam, favorite file manager and why?
So of course it's Nautilus, because I can copy and paste. I can resize the window. I can select other things. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm gonna go with Dolphin as well. My 5 reasons are: I like the smooth icon resize and reflow when you change the size. It's the little things that count, the little details.
Mm-hmm.
I like having the built-in terminal because it opens up in the location you're already at, so it's convenient if you need to edit something really quick there. I like the little progress bar in the KDE panel. Whenever you're copying a file or moving something, there's a nice little green progress bar in there. Nice touch. I like that. If you install the right packages, there's Google Drive integration in the network menu, where you can open up your Google Drive as like a remote file system if you like being spied on.
Right.
And then I like the document type search. I don't know if this is like default in every one of them, but like vanilla KDE, you have like a search for, and it has documents, images, etc.
Yep.
I like being able to just go in there and find the file that I need of that type. Like it just filters it by the type. And that's, if I need to find a document for work, I don't want to have to filter it through everything. So I just filter through documents and find what I need.
But see, that's the best part about Dolphin. You like that feature and you use that. I don't. So that's one of the things that I immediately hide when I customize Dolphin for the first time. So it's like, it gives you that flexibility that I can remove. Like, for example, in Thunar, you take what they give you. And the devices, like I said on the Euro edition, the devices are on the top. They're above your documents and everything. And I, for the life of me, I can't figure out why that is. Who designed that? That it would be on the top. But either way, what I'm saying is Dolphin gives you that flexibility that I can just change it to whatever I want it to look like.
Yeah. I mean, of course, all the other things you guys mentioned per folder settings and things like that are really great. I know there's a way to, sixth thing, there's a way to specify the folder content type. So you can have specific folders have for specific types of files. So if you have they do this by default. Like if you have a picture folder, it'll show preview by default, or if you have a video folder, preview by default, things like that. And you can set that by type. So even if you have like a project folder that's video projects, it's not necessarily your videos folder, but you want it to be like a videos folder.
Right.
You can do that as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Dolphins number one. No need for any more conversation.
Yeah, we're done. We can just
We're done here.
Yeah.
Big Pod.
For me, it's Nautilus really, because
Dude.
it was the first one I saw when using Linux. It was 17.10 Ubuntu, and from then on I stuck with it because it works for what I do, and it's pretty simple. I don't need. I was and still am quite used to the Windows paradigm of file manager, which is basically as simple as possible. Just do file management and that with as little customization as possible.
So you don't mind that they took out features and stuff like that?
I really didn't see what would they took out, because I was after 17.10, so before that I didn't see anything what was happening with
They took out
Nautilus.
everything, Big Pod. All you
You
can
still
do,
can do files.
all you can do is view your files now. You can't do anything else.
That's actually what only thing I do with file manager. I
Okay.
view files.
I think they're dropping that in the next release, actually.
Right. All right, Dan. You decided to wait until now to let us know what your favorite file manager is. Why? What is your favorite file manager?
All right, I like the one that comes with my desktop environment, and so because of that, that would be PCMan FM QT version, and it has a lot of the same features that you talk about in Dolphin, and not to reiterate them all again, but I like the split view. That's pretty handy for moving things back and forth.
Yeah.
In the address bar, you have the option. It could be the whole address bar, or you can like back up with the breadcrumb sort of approach at it, and that's pretty handy, I think, for me. The whole bookmark on the left, you can actually change that really quickly into a tree view if you wanted, instead of having all of those bookmarks and devices and all of that stuff. So that's really easy to change on the fly. You don't have to get into the settings or anything. You just click a little arrow and it changes it instantly. You can call the terminal from the folder that you're viewing, browsing. You call the terminal up, and you're in that folder already. Then that's super handy. And number 5 is you can run it as root.
Wow, had to go there.
I have on that topic, because we've said it now like 10 times. So under Dolphin,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm on Arch. If I right click any file or folder, I have a root actions menu.
Yes, it doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't work. Okay.
It doesn't actually open anything. It used to, but it doesn't now, because the KDE developers decided that we were not adult enough to have that feature.
Gotcha.
I think
they are trying to work it out, I think, but they're not there yet.
No. Now, OpenSUSE has modified the Dolphin file manager in their versions to allow that.
Yeah, I think they just bypassed all the.
It's in the AUR.
Safety.
Just saying.
I feel like that KDE should at least let them use Dolphin as root on Arch, because most people who use Arch know what they're doing.
I think it's just a philosophy thing with KDE. They feel it's not the best way to go, so they're just not allowing it, which is not usually the way KDE handles things. I mean, that's like, if that came from GNOME, I would expect that.
Their claim was that it was an unfixable error.
It was an
I don't know. They were looking at doing it like they do in Kate, whereas if you need to do something that requires elevated privileges, it would prompt you with the prompt to elevate your privileges. And I think they are planning to, but I don't know what their timetable is.
Yeah, there was a blog post by Nate Graham about that months ago saying that that was coming back and they were working on it. But like I said, that was months ago. So I don't know where it stands right now.
And if you're Arch based, just install Yay and type Yay space dolphin-root. Job done.
Are you sure that works, Silent?
Absolutely. I'm running it now.
And it actually opens the Dolphin in root?
Absolutely. Works fine.
I'm going to try that.
I've been telling you for months.
What's Yay? What is Yay anyway? What's that?
Yeah,
Yay is an AUR helper.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's probably it's
command line utility with
actually.
Almost 100% parity with Pacman, basically.
Yeah,
but gives you access to the AUR.
Now that Yourt isn't really being updated anymore, Yay kind of took over as the default AUR helper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Dave, favorite file manager?
I'm a troglodyte. Like Dan, I did whatever comes installed. The only time I change anything is the times I run KDE. I switch out of default Dolphin because I like something that from the command line I can go sudo whatever. So most times I just, for simplicity, like using Nano as an editor, I use Thunar as a file manager. I don't do a lot. I don't customize it. I just go in, change some files, and get out of it. So I really don't do anything in one, so I don't have a favorite.
Okay. Hey, that's perfectly fine. If you're missing out on Dolphin, that's fine. All right, Pizza. Do you have a favorite file manager?
So I usually just use the one that's packed into my whatever distro I choose. Or if I'm running Arch, then whatever desktop I choose. However, if I had to choose a favorite, I would have Dolphin as a contender. It's just the problem is it's Qt based and it kind of has. If you're running it on a GDK desktop without Kvantum, it can have issues sometimes with like theming. So and I use mostly GDK based desktops. So that Nautilus is the one I'm most familiar with because Budgie is the desktop I use the most, and Nautilus is the default file manager for Budgie. However, if I had to choose one, I'd choose Thunar, the one with XFCE, because it, for one reason, it has this feature where you can mass rename files in bulk, and I find that really useful.
That is one of the features that was named with Thunar, and that was actually one of the features that Martin Wimpers talked about with Kaja, that there is that availability in Kaja. It's installed by default with Ubuntu Mate, but I guess if you're running Arch or something other than Ubuntu Mate, you would have to install that dependency. I think it's like, I don't know, I forget what it is, but you can do that in Ubuntu Mate.
In my personal opinion, Ubuntu Mate is the only good Mate distro because some of the features I like in Mate is the fact that you can choose all the desktop layouts, but that's really an Ubuntu Mate exclusive feature. And also, they have extra features like, for example, that Saija one.
Well,
that's why I think Ubuntu Mate is the best Mate experience.
I agree. Totally agree.
Opinion, though.
Silent. It's building as we speak, so I'll let you know how it works out. What is your favorite file manager?
I think that's plainly obvious. It's Dolphin. All the way, for exactly the same reasons that yourself and Eric have already cited. In fact, exactly the same reasons.
Yep.
Just one thing. This is a little bit unrelated, but is my keyboard too loud? Because I'm playing a game right now.
You're playing a game while you're streaming?
Yeah.
Okay, so easy. Just mute yourself in Zoom and that'll be perfect.
Yeah. Okay, just making sure.
All right, Dolphin. Obviously, the file manager with your name is the best, right?
I'm sorry, you guys talking to me. I've been I've been trying to zone out every time someone says dolphin. It's it's tricky.
Uh-huh.
So I watched a little bit of the European one. Of course, we're here tonight. I gotta say, I got no problem with Dolphin. We got a nice little Dolphin installer in our package installer that some of the guys put in some of those extra little plugins and add-ons and things that Dolphin uses. Our version of Dolphin still runs root. You guys talk about the benefits of a non-stable like Debian so slow, but hey, our Dolphin still runs root. So just remember that.
Touche.
Sometimes it's not always great to upgrade. But of course, we have Thunar in XFCE.
Yep.
Is it my favorite file manager? No, it's not. But it has one pretty powerful feature, and that's the custom actions that you have coming into it.
That is very powerful.
Have all sorts of custom actions, and you can even translate each one of those actions. So for us, where we have all these custom actions, we actually translate those like 12 different languages.
Well, give us an example of those custom actions.
Okay, let's see here. We have an action for checking MD5 and SHA 256 keys.
Very nice.
Let me find it here real quick, because it's, of course, you can't see them all the time because it also has context driven, so you can tell it when you want these menus to appear.
Right. So that would only appear if you were clicking on an ISO or right clicking on an ISO
or whatever
something
file.
like that.
Yeah. So we've got edit as root, so you can fire up your text editor, whatever your default text editor is, it fires that up. We got open root Thunar, seems to be popular for people who don't have root file managers. We've even got a thing where we can right click on a deb and install it without gdebi. We just run apt-get install and install the deb directly that way. You skip all the issues you get with gdebi, and it still resolves all the dependencies, and it's just, peachy keen. So those are some examples. We've got some other shortcuts in there. There's a special symlink script. There's a few other things. But my personal favorite file manager, and if you've ever watched my channel, for people who have watched my channel, I've done several customization videos on this file manager, and that is SpaceFM. And unlike all the other file managers that you've spoken about tonight, SpaceFM isn't associated with a desktop. Excuse me. So you don't get all that desktop baggage with it that you get with some of the other file managers. Why do I like it? It's actually originally a fork of PC. What is that? PC Man FM, I think, an early one, like maybe even before it was LXDE, part of the LX project. You want to talk about customization? You got dual panels and all your file managers. I can have 4. Okay, I can have 1, 2, 3, 4 panels in this file manager. Not only that, depending on the sequence, or not sequence, depending on how many panels I have open, the sidebars change for whatever configuration I want. So if I'm in dual pane mode, well, I might not want the sidebar with the file tree or the bookmarks or whatever. That automatically goes away. All I got to do is turn it off in that view. It remembers that view next time I come back to it. If I want to change the color of the progress bars, I click on the progress bar, do a right click and say change the color. If I want to change an accelerator key, I right click, I flip open the menu, right click on the menu entry and change the accelerator key. This thing is so custom. This is designed by a guy who wasn't happy because he couldn't change things and other things. It has to be, because you can change everything in this file manager. It's absolutely ridiculous what you can change in it. It doesn't have to use GVFS backend. I got to find my notes here because I got a couple of notes. So I got the split screen. I got remember settings per menu. Oh, you can customize the menus. So if you need something else in a menu, even a command that's a system command, you just make a new menu entry. Right click on the menu, make a new entry. It's simple. And it has an integrated search tool. It's okay. It's okay, but it is integrated into it. And what's the last one? Oh, for those of you running window managers that don't have desktops like Fluxbox, OpenBox, JWM, it will supply a desktop if you want it to. It has a daemon mode, it runs in the background. It'll let you change the wallpaper. It'll put your desktop icons on there. We actually use it on Annex. It's one of our combination flavors for that, and that's kind of where I fall in love with it. It sits on top of the. Its most powerful piece is a little command line utility called udevil. I don't know how many of you guys have heard of udevil. This thing is like the ultimate mounter tool, command line mounter tool. It doesn't matter; it just knows things. Okay, and it sits on SpaceVim sits on top of that, and it lets me do WebDAV, Samba shares, all that stuff from it. The only one weird thing about it is it doesn't have a plugin architecture, and the only thing you have to plug in is the trash can plugin because it doesn't come with access to the trash.
It doesn't come with access to the trash.
Well, because not all, unless you're running a DE or a system running one of the virtual file systems, you might not have a trash can. For instance, Antix, I don't know if Puppy has one, but Antix doesn't have one by default because they doesn't run the GVFS file system in the back end. SpaceVim can work with it or not work without it. And the plugin that I like to use is it's a French plugin, but I've done it in my videos. That plugin will work either with the GVFS and run in the background or without it. And I actually have it installed on MX right now, and it works fine. And it integrates just fine with my with the trash can that's supplied by the usual XFCE experience. So that is my favorite. It is ridiculously customizable, and I don't know if it's as customizable as Dolphin because like the KDE guys are like seriously like neurotic on customization features. But SpaceFM's got to be a close second with the customization features. It's certainly got more customization going on than Nautilus.
Right.
What's their YouTube name?
I'm sorry?
What's their YouTube name? I want to subscribe.
Oh, it's Run with the Dolphin is the channel.
Oh, okay. I'll look it up.
Yep. I think there's a link on BDL's website
there
for
is,
it.
BigDailyLinks.com. There's a link on the community page.
So, but at any rate, I've done a lot of videos on it because in the Annex world, things like mounting Samba shares can be tricky sometimes because we don't have that back end. But SpaceVim brings a lot to the table. Development is sporadic, but hey, it still opens its root too. So, and I can hit F4 for a terminal.
Wow, dude, you like keep throwing that in there. That's all I'm saying.
That was just a little
bit. Rocco, sometimes you just want to open its root.
Right. Sometimes you do. You just can't do it with Dolphin. Sam, welcome to Biddle.
Thank you. Been lurking about for a few weeks, and I've been on with Toss a couple times. Been on with Steve a few times.
Awesome. So, do you have a favorite file manager or what?
Actually, I've been running 2 Linux distros. Linux Mint since December, and for the past month I've been using Salient. And when I went from Mint to Salient, the first thing I noticed was I didn't really like Thunar, and I installed Nemo because that's what I was used to with Mint. And Nemo kind of reminds me of a third-party file manager I was using in Windows called QDIR, which had multiple window capabilities, which I used instead of the Microsoft File Explorer. And
right.
Nemo kind of gave me a lot of the same features that had, and that's why I ended up installing it in Salient.
Very nice. Well, Silence. Hold on 1 second, Pizza. Silence coming out with Plasma Salient, right? Silent.
Yep. Within the next couple of days, there'll be a test build.
So then we can try Dolphin as root. Then,
absolutely.
What I'm saying. Okay, Pizza, go ahead.
So there used to be I know Salient is based on Arch, right?
Salient is based on Arch, yes.
Yeah.
There used to be this thing in Arch where when you tried to install Nemo, it installed the entire Cinnamon desktop as a dependency. Is that still a thing?
No, I didn't have that issue at all.
Because you have to install Nemo to get desktop icons on Budgie on Arch. And it installed the entire Cinnamon desktop for me.
Okay.
I didn't have that problem in Salient at all.
It shouldn't do. I don't. It's got some dependencies, but shouldn't be the whole desktop.
The Farron OS dev told me that they fixed it, but I hadn't checked. So
you can use a -- needed flag, and it will only pull down what's absolutely necessary.
Oh.
All right, so we have concluded from this conversation that Dolphin is the #1 file manager of choice here. right?
Was there any other doubt?
Rocco, are you willing to share those drugs, please?
Well, look, Dave. Look, this is coming from my viewpoint. So check my viewpoint out. You and a few others, like Dan, said that you would just use whatever file manager came with it. So you really don't have a favorite, right? So that leaves that out. The other choice, there was like one vote for Kaja, one vote for Nemo, one vote for Nautilus, one vote for, I forget, Peter, what was your file manager?
Worker.
Worker.
But I'm checking out Space FM now.
Yeah, and Dolphin had one vote for Space FM. And look, I voted for KDE. Eric voted for KDE. Silent voted for KDE. I mean, Adam voted for KDE. I mean, obviously, it is the number one file manager, right?
No, they all voted for KDE, but I seem to recall at least 2 or 3 different versions of Dolphin.
Yeah.
Voted for Dolphin Root.
Yeah.
Dolphin on that doesn't have the customizations. Dolphin that you can't open as root. So that's kind of like saying, Linux is the best. Well, yeah, which one?
Yeah. Got to mess things up with those pesky facts, don't you, Dave?
Sorry, I'll mute myself.
You said that the question was, what is your favorite file manager?
Right.
There's no vote.
Oh, okay. All right.
I voted for Themer.
And there's no wrong answer except for Nautilus.
So Big Pod, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
Sorry, dude.
I think really in the end, it's what you're used to. A lot of people don't even care. It's whatever's on their distro. That's what they go with. I mean, I happen to get very used to Kaha, and I really do like it. I do wish it had the preview pane, and I didn't even think about that until Eric had put up his little chart on Telegram this afternoon. And then I went, wait a second, I know why I thought it had it, because my Mac has that. And they've had that since 2010 or earlier. So why can't Kaha get that? I don't think it's that hard.
Well, all joking aside, it is awesome that we all can choose a different file manager and get what we want from it.
Yeah.
And not kill each other.
Choice is great.
I think they're all good in their own way, but most of the stuff that you guys talk about doing in file managers, I usually end up doing from the command line anyway.
Well, Dave, on the Europe edition, Popey was on, and he said that he basically doesn't use a GUI file manager. He uses the terminal for everything. So there's one vote for that too. And Anna says Rocco never wins, except for in his mind he does. Really, Anna? Really?
Well, it's your show, Rocco, so that's all that matters.
Wait, just to clarify, by preview pane, do you mean like the thing on like on Windows, for example, where when you click on an image, for example, it shows like the image in a preview thing?
Yeah, Dolphin has that.
Nemo. Oh, I wish I had Dolphin, because I was trying to make a spreadsheet the other day. Basically, my parents are hairdressers, so they asked me if I could make a spreadsheet with all of their clients' name, phone number, and email, and they screenshotted each of the clients' names and stuff for me. But I was on Nemo because I'm running Linux Mint right now. I couldn't pull up the preview thing. So I had to open each image individually and then input it in the spreadsheet and then close it and open up the next one.
You know what? Another thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Eventually, I found another way. What I did is I just zoomed in a lot to the panel, so that way it showed all of the images kind of big.
I was going to say that brought to mind that the zoom level in Dolphin, you can zoom in to a ridiculous extent.
Yes, ridiculous.
Yeah, you could do that on Nemo too. That's what I ended up doing.
Gotcha.
Because it shows like the file preview for the thumbnail.
That's funny. They're putting you to work though.
Unfortunately, Silent, I'd have to ask you, if you go to install KDE on a non-KDE desktop, does it pull all of KDE in?
It does pull a chunk of it in. The Plasma framework, definitely, and associated dependencies, yeah.
I think the other problem too is I believe Dolphin would be Qt, right? And then Mint is GTK.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah, if you're on a Qt desktop, it probably wouldn't be too bad.
Right.
Well, I pulled Nemo in on when I was running. What's the one you're running, Dan? Again?
I'm Ubuntu, so it's
Ubuntu, yeah.
Yeah, LXQT.
I couldn't get to my network folders, and in PCMan FMQT, it wouldn't open it, so I pulled in Nemo.
I think that's been addressed.
That's been fixed. It has been fixed.
I think you'll see that come out in 1904.
Yeah, no, it's been fixed. But Nemo pulled in quite okay on that. Didn't seem to pull in a whole heap. So and it run
Nemo
well.
probably does. Yeah, that probably doesn't have a ton of dependencies. It's probably not too bad.
All right, so that's our chat about file managers. So the question is, what do we want to do for next week? Is there a distro we want to try out? Is there a program we want to try out? Is there something else we want to do?
You saw my suggestion earlier in the week in Telegram.
And tell everybody what that was, Eric.
Well, I just asked if we had ever done Arch Vanilla before.
I have.
Oh, that's true.
I think you're going to find very few people want to actually just dabble into that. So
you really don't have to. I just, what I will tell you is that honestly, for people that, will say that it's difficult to install, the part that to me makes it difficult is that the install instructions, which I swear used to be more verbose than they are today. They used to be more descriptive.
I think you're right, Eric.
I think years ago, and so there were actually two documents, right? There was like the streamline instructions, and then there was a sort of suggested approach. Anyway, it's really not that bad. And I would say that if you've never done it, at least it's going to teach you about partitioning and some of the, internals of your system. And it's not to the point of like, I don't know how to explain it. I think if you enjoy Linux in the slightest and you wanted to try it, you can do it in a VM. You don't have to do it on hardware. But that said, I understand if that's not a popular choice. So,
see, I can do partitioning on a terminal, but I don't trust myself. I'm a graphical person, and I have to see that graphical thing because I can relate to it better. I can process it better in a graphical. Whereas in the terminal, I can do it. I just got to be very careful because it's just one of those things.
Well, look, I agree to your point, Eric, that it would, it's a teaching tool as far as you'll learn a lot as you do it. And I agree with that. But most people are just not ready for that. You know what I mean? On a mass basis, people just aren't ready to install Arch.
My second option then would be Salient Plasma, if that's coming out.
Is it ready, Silent?
It's not ready yet. I do have a build that works, but it's not themed how I'd like to release it yet.
Okay.
For me, I've installed Arch before, and it's easy if you know what you're doing, but it's also can be very tedious. So
Pizza?
That and some, yeah.
How old are you?
13.
And you installed Arch?
Yes.
You the man. You are the man.
So it's sort of a tedious process. So whenever I want to use pure Arch now, instead of installing it like a normal person would, I use this script I found on GitHub called AUI. It stands for Arch Ultimate Installer, and you open up your Arch ISO, and you using the terminal, you basically clone it, and then CD into the directory, and then run it. And you just answer questions like what you can choose whatever text editor you want, and then it lets you configure everything through a nice menu. I wouldn't call it graphical because it's in the command line, but sort of a nice interface. And then so that script's called Lilo, and then after you get the base system up with Lilo, you reboot, and then you can log into FIFO, which is how you install like a desktop and some applications and stuff. And it's a really nice and easy process.
All right. Ben, you made it. You're muted, sir.
Yeah, it looks like I made it for the second hour.
All right. So you want to chime in on the favorite file manager or no?
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't really have like a favorite. I mean, I've been getting to know Ranger more often than not. I've been finding myself falling back on it. I don't consider myself a power user. I'm not a coder or a programmer or anything. I just kind of like simplistic workflow of it. Just works, does what I need it to do. Sometimes I fall back on the PC Man FM. If I'm not sure how to do something, I'll fall back on that. Then do some research, figure out how to do it for the next time. But no, I mean, maybe it's just I'm getting older, but I just prefer like simpler things that just work.
No, I agree. No, I'm okay with things working. It doesn't usually happen on my system, but I'm okay with it happening like that.
I noticed, Rocco, on Distro Watch during the week, there's a release for Sabian. I don't know if anybody's interested in trying a Gentoo-based...
wow, dude.
I am.
I'm never going to install Gentoo. I can install Arch, but Gentoo...
Sabian uses an installer, and it's got a lot of pre-built stuff. It's not pure Gentoo.
No, it's not.
Yeah. What's interesting about it is that it does let you, just like Manjaro or Salient, it lets you get the base system up and running with some.
Yeah, it's.
But then
you can tweak as much as you want.
Then you get to understand how portage works, and you can really just understand, what a Gentoo system is about without having to go through all this.
Has Biddle done Puppy before?
No.
Oh, I'm asking because they came out like a week ago with a new version.
This is very true. It could be a live distro challenge.
We would make Prophetic and Aris's day if we tried Puppy Linux.
Well, they've been asking for a while. Why don't we just try it?
I don't know. I kind of wanted to have Prophetic here on like the night that we announced that we would try Puppy Linux, just to see his face and his reaction. But I guess if you guys want to, let's try it.
Well, I have a question. I don't think that's a bad idea because I haven't spent any time with it. But I've come across one that I hadn't been aware of before. It's called Linux Lite.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone's heard of that one.
Yeah.
Linux Lite is good, but somebody who lives in Germany, that I know on my Discord server, he told me that Linux Lite has the worst language support for any distro he's ever used.
Peter, do you remember if we tried Linux Lite on the list you made?
I don't think it's on the list.
No, I don't think
remember it.
Good. Just curious. It was another one I hadn't seen.
Sabian keeps being mentioned. We've mentioned it for quite a few months now.
Yeah.
We've not really tried a Gentoo, and it is a distro that is pre-installed as such. I'd be up for trying it.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Either Sabian or Red Core. That's another Gentoo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I believe
Core,
we
yeah.
did do Red Core 1 week way early or something like that. I forget. Okay, so what's your vote? Puppy or Sabian?
Puppy.
Sabian.
I'm good either way.
I agree with Rocco. I want to see Prophetic's face when we choose.
Yeah.
Okay, then Sabian.
Because he's been bugging us about doing it. So let's see if he's really just being, just teasing us, or see if he's.
All right.
So Puppy's just a live disk, isn't it? Puppy, you can install it. I think
you can install it.
Okay, so
Yeah,
somebody who knows, give us the rundown on Puppy and what's the intent of Puppy.
Well, you can create a persistent storage on the USB itself, but it is intended, I think, to be run as a live distro where you basically, whatever PC you sit down at, plug it in, boot it up, and then with the persistent component, you still have the ability to save configurations and some files depending on the size of your USB key.
And I think you need like a minimum of like 250 megs of RAM. I mean, it's ridiculously small.
Oh yeah, it's definitely intended for.
I mean, you can it would make a Raspberry Pi look radically overpowered.
Yeah, but Puppy runs in RAM though, right? That's
Yes.
where it runs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Puppy
Yeah.
runs in RAM. Yeah.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
It also allows you to use Squash FS containers as pluggable file systems that you can pull into it.
I have a kind of a funny story about Puppy. So what got me into Linux was I like trying operating systems in virtual machines. I'd run old versions of Windows, and then eventually I ran out of old versions of Windows. So I decided to try out Linux, and the first distribution I tried in a virtual machine was Puppy, because I went to DistroWatch and a release came out that day, and it was the first one on DistroWatch. So I just put it in the virtual machine, and I was so confused I couldn't figure out how to install it. I was probably 9 when this happened.
That was like ages ago.
Yeah, it was right when I first got this computer right here. It came with Windows 8, and before I had a Mac that wasn't powerful enough to run virtual machines, and I thought it was cool to be able to run different OSs on top of my OS. So that's why I was trying so many of them. But let's just say that was not a good first impression for Linux. So then I searched Linux for beginners, and then that's when I found Ubuntu. And then I liked Ubuntu in my virtual box. So then one day I decided to put it on my main system. Of course, I dual booted with Windows 8 and the Windows 10 technical preview, so I was technically tri-booting.
See, there's an interesting observation, right? He found a Linux that wasn't quite right, but and this is what we've been talking about for the last few weeks, right? With someone new, how do they get into Linux? How do they find, search, this and that? So it's interesting to hear that story that, the first one you tried, you weren't quite sure, but you were interested enough to go back and try something else.
Just mainly because I ran out of Windows versions to try, and I couldn't install Mac in a VM. So
did you try
the age-old problem?
Let me ask you, did you try Millennium by any chance? Because you probably would have stopped right there.
All right, so
I did use Millennium.
This is what Savion Linux website says. Savion is a beginner-friendly Gentoo-based open-source Linux distribution. We aim to deliver the best out-of-the-box user experience by providing the latest open-source technologies in an elegant format. In Savion, everything should just work. We offer a bleeding-edge operating system that is both stable and reliable.
All right.
Wow. Sounds good.
Yeah.
It sounds good. How about we put them to the test and see?
It's true. As a desktop, it does work. It's just when you go to update it, it can be extremely slow.
Yeah, the update system is slow.
Even though Gentoo is hard to install, once you get it installed, it is a very stable distro. That's what I heard.
So it says multiple desktop environment: KDE, GNOME, Mate, and XFCE.
Mate and XFCE would probably run the best in a VM.
So Savion's source-based, right? Did you like Gentoo? Or do they pre-compile in Gentoo stuff?
They pre-compile. They
okay.
Pre-compile themselves from Gentoo.
They do similar to Calculate. They offer a lot of binaries up front.
Okay.
You can compile from source if you want to. But.
I should really try a Gentoo-based distro. I've never tried one.
Well, you can this week, because that's what we're going to try.
Oh, I'm going to stick with Chrome OS.
Raku, did you make the Savion website, by the way?
No. Should I have?
I mean, well, it just says GNOME edition. It's the first one listed, and the descriptor there is pretty funny.
Wait, what? What, in the download section or what?
Yes.
All right, let me see what this funny website says here.
I just saw it.
Well, I'm still not there. Hold on.
What are we looking at?
Awesomeness and candies.
Is that like a reference to the website where you get all the external resources for custom themes for GNOME and all that? Because I think it was like iCandy for GNOME or something like that.
I thought it was called. Wait,
that's what the GNOME edition's called. Awesomeness and candies.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if you wrote that.
No,
website.
I didn't write that. That would be cool though.
Now we have to try it.
Well, the closest I've gotten to Gentoo was it took me a week in between work and stuff to get a full install. on a quad-core system with 8 gigs of RAM. I had it up and running with a KDE desktop and everything. I found the instructions on the website very clear. It was very
There's the Mate edition.
a lot clearer than the Arch install, in my opinion. But the problem is the compile time just took too long for me. I couldn't. This is not a system I have the lifestyle to be able to maintain.
Yeah, Benjamin, I installed vanilla Gentoo 10 years ago.
Really, dude?
Yeah. Yeah, and it really it's not that bad. You just have to wait for the compile times. I mean, you put in the commands and then you just walk away.
I'm impatient. I want to play Counter-Strike.
But see, this you got to remember too. 10 years ago, it was almost impossible to install any Linux install like it is today. Like the fact that you could just put in a USB key and 20 minutes later you've got a full desktop with everything you need. I mean, it took hours. If for any reason.
That was my first experience with it in 1995 or 96.
Yeah.
And while Gentoo is slow because it builds all the things from source, with modern computers, it's nowhere near as painful as it used to be.
Yeah, I've got 12 threads. 16
Oh, speak
threads.
of the devil.
By the way,
there he
if you guys
is.
decide
You're
to
late.
download Sabian, however we say it.
Sabayon?
Yes, that one. It's a little bit on the slow side. I'm looking right now, and I've got my Ethernet cable plugged into my laptop. And it's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Ever since we mentioned Sabian, all I hear is comments about slow. Whether it's the package manager or the download speed, this doesn't sound like it's going to be off to a good start here.
Well, I think Sabion's got, if I remember right, it's got a pretty big ISO, so that might not be too slow.
It says here it's only 1.9 gig.
Well,
No, I thought it was
for the Mate version.
We were going to try Puppy, but
Barbara, you must be really away from the mirror since I have like 3 megs a second.
Oh.
And
Wait,
12 minutes.
So
for
are
Mate edition.
So where did you download it from?
Sabian.org.
Oh,
downloads.
I
But
could
download
start
it.
downloading it now, but the stream might suffer. So
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
Wait, so I have a question. I'm kind of new to this this live stream, but like, are we all supposed to download it and try it?
This week we will try
This
it,
week,
and
not necessarily tonight.
No, and Pete, do you have Telegram?
Yeah.
If you join the
Except I don't-
Biddle Telegram group, all this week people will probably be talking about it, maybe posting issues they've had, maybe help other people with it. So we can talk about it all week long through Telegram.
The problem is I can't download any distros or anything right now because I'm doing a review on all the Ubuntu's on my YouTube channel when it comes out, and we have a 1 terabyte data limit, and which might seem like a lot, except we have a whole family using it, and my mom streams 4K Netflix.
Doesn't last long with 4K.
Yeah. So I probably am unable to download any distros this month. I'm not even downloading Counter-Strike because that's a 10 gigabyte game.
Well,
What about,
this is not a requirement of
Yeah, I
being a
know.
part of
I know,
Biddle,
I'm just
so
saying.
it's all good.
Pizza, can you download it in school?
That's what Switch to Linux said.
Or use the library.
Because I'm a high school teacher, and I've actually, I download stuff that way too. I shouldn't say it, but I
Or you can download Puppy.
Yeah, there's prophetic.
Where were you like 20 minutes ago?
Yeah, where were you when we voted?
No, man. I was hoping my faithful Puppy followers will hold it down, but
nope.
I actually
Well, there was only one of them, dude.
That's the reason I
all
voted
you
for
need.
Puppy, because I was worried about the download.
No, we have to be clear. We have to be clear. This was Rocco trying to be. He wanted you to be here. He wanted you to take part in it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I said there's no way we can try Puppy without you being here to see your reaction to us actually agreeing to try Puppy. So,
Wow,
You need to
Rocco.
send out more checks.
So close.
Excuses.
So there's not. So it wasn't clickbait. It was distro bait.
yes,
Pretty much.
So if you guys had to pick one, which one of these Sabian editions would you think is their flagship? Like if you had to pick one of them.
No.
Based on the description, no.
I believe it's no, but I'm not 100% essentially talked with the guy, one of the guys, and
I would think that you
I
would
don't
want to
think that
try the
better.
distro or the desktop environment that you're most comfortable with. That way you can compare it to whatever you normally run.
I'm
GNOME is
doing
always
the Mate desktop.
GNOME is always the flagship edition for every distro except for Solus and Manjaro.
Or KDE Neon.
Well,
Yeah, and
Manjaro.
that.
Well, technically, Manjaro has 3 flagships, and GNOME is
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah, but I
always
thought
think-
XFCE was the main distro, main desktop environment for
XFCE
Manjaro.
is
I thought
the
Plasma was.
I don't think
well.
so.
Well, if you go to their website and you click official, right? You have community editions and you have official editions.
Right.
You have XFCE, GNOME, and KDE are their official flavors.
yeah.
And then the rest are there's a ton of community editions. Like,
XFCE was the original.
yeah, from what I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Just like with Arco Linux.
I just want to say, good old MX Linux is XFCE pretty much only.
So when are you going to get high DPI scaling working in
Oh.
XFCE Dolphin?
Well,
About the same time they get open as root done in the Dolphin file manager.
probably before
Wow.
that. We have 2 developers looking at it.
Okay.
Well, if you're running an Arch-based distro, there is a patched version of Dolphin in the AUR that does open as root.
Yes, I'm finding that out. I'm in the middle of building it, but I got to a point where it says Dolphin-root and Dolphin are in conflict. So do you want to remove Dolphin?
Yes.
Yes, you can only have one.
Yes,
you can only have
but
one
I
version.
don't think I want to do it right now
That's why I don't run Plasma.
in the middle of the stream.
Like I still want core.
I'm afraid.
Core. I still want core pieces of my system to be dependent on the AUR, if you know what I mean. So that's just
What's interesting is I installed Saja on my Solus laptop, which is laying on the bed right there. I installed Saja on that, and it's running Solus Budgie, so I had Nautilus before. But for some reason, after I installed Saja, all of my applications just became super slow, and like it took forever to open Firefox, and I don't know why.
Saja. What's Saja?
It's the file manager.
Kaja, yeah.
Oh, is there like a weird
Uh,
French symbol underneath the C that we didn't see or something? Or
No, it's Kaja.
Oh,
It's Spanish, isn't it?
Spanish.
It's Spanish.
Yeah, like Matei or Marco.
Because I think the
Italian Spanish.
Hey, what's more confusing, installing Gentoo or trying to pronounce things in the Linux world?
hey, reasons why we have Michael to know.
Gentoo.
Yeah, where is
Yes, only when he gets it wrong. Then just saying. I'll pay for that comment. All right. So on the Biddle Europe, we had a discussion about web browsers and Firefox, and the idea that Firefox might not always be around because of the way that they are funded. Or I shouldn't say Firefox not always around. Let me rephrase that. Let me back up. Mozilla not always being around. Firefox will probably move on by an open source pickup of some kind if for some reason Mozilla ever went by the wayside. So we were imagining a world where maybe, who knows what would happen. Maybe Google pulls their funding from Mozilla. Maybe they don't continue on. So the question is, what does it look like without a major company behind Firefox? Do you guys think that changes everything, or would we still go on as normal?
Yes.
Well, find funding, because last time I checked, they've been getting royalty checks from that lawsuit they had with Google a while back. So is that what you're talking about, or?
Well, kind of. I mean, when you're competing against Chrome and you're being funded by Google, at some point that could cause issues.
That money will dry up one day.
Yeah. So it was hard for me to picture Mozilla folding, but there was quite a few guys in there that could picture that. So then the question becomes, what does that after Mozilla type world look like?
I
only.
think that the internet would probably. I think that Firefox would become what Linux is like today, where there'd be tons of different distributions and versions of Firefox.
Which already exist.
Exactly.
Yeah. I use Waterfox.
Waterfox, Cyberfox, Palemoon. But I think that fragmentation would happen even more if Mozilla wasn't backing Firefox.
Sam, how do you find Waterfox compared to like Firefox, or are you able to do everything you're normally able to do on a Firefox, or what?
It seems to be just about the same. They claim that it's not as resource heavy. I don't really notice any performance difference using either one of them. But it seems to be they tout it as being a slightly lighter install, using less resources, and they're usually a couple of additions behind whatever the current Firefox build is.
They're still on 56, I thought, Waterfox.
56.2 or something like that, because I had just my dad actually uses Waterfox as well. So I don't personally, but
does that mean that Waterfox and all the other forks are quantum based as well, or are they using something completely different?
They're not all quantum based. I think Pale Moon, if I remember right, still from like Firefox 29 or something like that. But that's probably going to be it for Pale Moon. I know they recently dropped the like Pale Moon. We keep it a version in Antics floating around that because you can get one without SSE2 support for the CPU. That's going back a ways.
Right.
None of the modern browsers have that. So actually, without that kind of operation, that's just hastening the demise of the 32-bit machine, for that matter, because that's pretty well the only machines that don't have that support on them.
Well, I want to get back to Pale Moon, Dolphin, but it's funny you mentioned that because it's my dad uses Waterfox and Pale Moon, like he has them both installed, and you go to Waterfox and it gives you the things about some add-ons, may not work, may not be compatible and then you go to Pale Moon and it gives you some add-ons may not be compatible because they're too new. So it's like
that's correct.
Two spectrums there,
Yeah, Pale Moon. That's the other reason a lot of people switched to Pale Moon was when they went to the web extensions style plugin, or when they changed them when Mozilla changed the plugin architecture. I forget what they call it, add-ons or whatever they are.
Add-ons.
Extensions
architecture. Yeah, the extensions. That they broke a lot of older extensions. If they didn't update them, they weren't going to update. Those third-party extensions went away if they weren't updated by their developers. So Pale Moon can still run all those old extensions. They can't necessarily run the latest and greatest ones.
I forgot to mention this earlier, Rocco, but Firefox did sort of shoot itself in the foot a little bit whenever it decided to go to quantum. And for exactly the reason that Dolphin's mentioning, things where people were heavily invested in their extensions and their add-ons and their themes, and like they basically just ripped the rug out from underneath of pretty much everybody. And I'll tell you, I was an avid Firefox user for a long time, and when it got really bad for a long time. And when Chrome came out, they were in super try-hard mode. Everything was new, and they were pushing the boundaries and speed, all of that. And so, not only was it just that Chrome has backing from a big company and all of that sort of stuff, but there was also Firefox made some pretty big missteps along the way as well.
Yeah,
I agree. And one of those was them add-ons, and a lot of those add-ons had to do with customizing the browser itself. Customizing the look, adding buttons, having buttons not completely not work. Like there used to be restart buttons where you could restart Firefox by just hitting the button, but then they don't work any longer because they don't allow the add-ons to have that much capability over Firefox. So yeah, and that's partially why you have people using Waterfox and Pale Moon, because of the fact that they don't have access to the add-ons anymore that they've been used to for years. So, but Dolphin, you said about Pale Moon, were you saying something like they might not they might stop development of that, or?
Well, I mean, if you look at the website, it's eventually going to stop. There's another browser that's an option. The same guy is writing. I forget the name of it right now.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about because it's still in like beta or something like. Is it? Basilisk?
The last time I tried it, it was unusable. But yes, that's the next thing, and it's more or less the quantum version of Pale Moon, if you want to think of it that way. It's not really, but that's the idea. You can't keep it. Part of the problem with old architectures, you can't keep it forever.
Basilisk, that's what it was.
Basilisk, that's it. Thank you.
Basilisk, like the snake in Harry Potter.
I never
I'm
seen
thinking
Harry
more
Potter,
like the thing that
so
turns you to stone with its gaze.
Yeah, that's the one. Yes,
because that's what I. Never mind.
So I did try Basilisk, and it is not up to par yet.
No,
so.
I mean, Cubzilla had the same problem, right? Cubzilla is crashy, and now Falcon is Cubzilla renamed, and okay, it's better, sort of, kind of now. These things, that's the Mozilla engine. The one thing you've got behind it is you've got all this stuff. It's open source, right? Some browser will survive. What's the known browser? Epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
That's last I checked. It was Mozilla based. Gecko. I mean to say, not Mozilla. Gecko based. This stuff all lives in the open source world. I think a lot of it will survive. Without Mozilla, I think the updates would slow down without a company backing behind it. Look at the difference between if you even want to take the paradigm of here's a distro, and then here's a distro that's backed by Red Hat or a distro that's backed by Canonical. Those companies push a lot of open source, and so without those companies, then
Now, do you envision it happening like a Thunderbird, where the community just takes over then and?
I mean, I don't see why they could. I mean, you can contribute to Mozilla to Firefox now. You don't have to wait for the company to go belly up. You can contribute now. The reason they spun off Thunderbird is because they didn't want to put the resources into it themselves.
Right.
Well, also this raises the question: are there any other browser engines that are under development? Because we only hear about the big two, Chromium and whatever Mozilla is currently doing, Quantum. I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure, but whatever Mozilla is doing right now. And then there are the other browsers that are third party, me of which I'm a very favorable Vivaldi user. You probably heard my love of the browser because of its customization, but it is Chrome based. But it is made by the OG Opera team before they sold Opera to the Chinese company that had sort of forked and made its brand sort of non-defunct, I guess, if that made any sense. That's why I'm nervous of the new Opera browser, but that's a totally different story altogether. But are there any other engines that are willing to compete against the quote unquote big two, or the big one, big Chrome and small Firefox? That are willing.
I mean, what's Safari based on? Is that still WebKit?
I think WebKit, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah, but it's not the same. It's not. I don't think it's the same WebKit as Google though, because I think Google forked WebKit to make Blink, right?
Well. I'm just saying, Apple shepherds. What is it? Cups, maybe? Or I forget what. I mean, they're Unix underneath. It's pretty, and the Mac desktop is what it is, but it's Unix underneath. There's a lot of stuff going on there too, from them. But I don't know. WebKit is the only one I could think of. I didn't realize Chrome was WebKit. I guess I don't pay attention that much. But,
maybe we're just confusing it on the comments.
If Firefox just didn't exist though, that would be a very bad thing, because that would give Google a major monopoly. And we've seen that monopolies with the internet is never a good thing, with the Internet Explorer thing back in the day.
Okay, so I've heard this comment a lot amongst various commentators, not just Linux commentators, but lots of commentators with the Internet Explorer thing, with Windows using a Chrome backend for their Next Edge browser. Is it so bad that there's only one?
Yes.
For developers, no.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And here's the reason, because there are standards, right? There are bodies, very intelligent people who write standards that these browsers are supposed to follow, and Chrome often chooses not to follow those.
Yeah.
Like Microsoft.
But
For example, give us an example, Eric.
I don't have one on the top of my head. I'm sorry.
All right.
We touched on it a little bit earlier, but what about the distro default browsers? I don't know if they have the sophistication process on the HTML5 and stuff like that. But I mean, I think like KDE's or Plasma's is Conqueror, and I don't know what I don't know what Cinnamon is. I think Cinnamon does Chromium, but the default browsers like that might start coming up. I know I never use them. I wish I could take the Samsung browser off of my phone. That thing is just a pain in the butt. It's along with Bixby, but there are alternatives. I just don't know how good they are.
Rocco, if you think about it, Google has done some good stuff with their market share power in forcing people to go to HTTPS and getting TLS pushed through more security and certification and encryption. But if you think that if they suddenly had 99.99% of the web under their control, under the control of their browser engine, then whatever they decide to do, be it in our best interest or not, suddenly we're going to be forced to do it. At this point, they still have to contend with Mozilla being not by any means a major player, but enough of a player, especially among the techies, to make Google pause about doing stuff against the social good.
Well, I made a point earlier about the fact that you see graphs of the users in Chrome and Chromium and Internet Explorer or Edge or whatever you want to call it. And you see Firefox at like 10% or whatever, depending on which graph you're looking at, and Chrome with the main share of the users. But I made the argument that the 10% of the Firefox users are the users that will stay with Firefox regardless. They've been using Firefox for however long, and they'll continue to use Firefox as long as it's an option. So it may only be a 10% base, but it is a strong, dedicated 10% base.
And that's basically the one check on Google at the moment, being able to dictate to the web what the standards for browsing are.
And we're missing one whole part of it. If Google ends up being and Chromium and so on, but if Google ends up being the only browser, unless you're using a Mac and you can use Safari, but there's a big issue about privacy and tracking.
Yeah.
And did anyone see an article? I'm going to post it in. I think I don't know where. Maybe I'll post it in the Telegram group. The New York Times had an article this evening. I read it about maybe 6 o'clock tonight, where tracking phones and the way and Google's used, and they went to Google and they got all the information they needed. And then when they narrowed it down, they went back and got warrants for those individuals. And they just did basically like a dragnet catch of everybody who was around in a certain area. Do we really want to lose that much more of our privacy that we've already lost? I would not use Google.
I don't think that I don't think it would be a choice, Barb. I mean, no, none of us would choose to do that. The question remains, though, like I said, when Google is the part of one of your biggest funders to Mozilla, there may not be a choice. If say Google pulled out today, say they decided, you know what, we own the market share for web browsers and we're going to cement it by pulling our funding from Mozilla. Could Mozilla stand without the funding from Google? And if not, what would happen basically?
No, I don't think they would be able to stand, but I also don't think Google is interested in pulling the funding, because to them, $500,000 or whatever they're paying them, or maybe it's 500 million or something like that. It is nothing compared to what they earn, and also to put themselves in a position where they would be technically a monopoly and then possibly face some sort of.
Well, you're right, Eric. It definitely would never be about the money because that's a drop in the bucket to Google, but it might be about just the plain fact of having the bulk of the market share. Although that would put them in the
Google
monopoly
already
area.
has it, and they're getting all the information from the people. So losing 8% to the techies, is like a drop in the bucket of the data information they're getting. So and it takes some of the pressure off of them because, well, you can go do Firefox. You don't have to do Chrome. If they're the only browser, suddenly everybody's going to be looking a lot closer at them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was actually using Chrome for a really long time because there's this issue in Firefox where sometimes it would use GDK theming inside of web pages for things like search bars and buttons.
Yeah.
And I didn't use 100% Chrome, but that made me use Chromium for a long time. However, Firefox has mostly fixed that, and I use a dark GDK theme, so it showed black text on a dark background. But the dark reader extension, which I use, actually fixes it. So now, even though I'm using a dark GDK theme, now instead of the text being black, it's white. So there is still a little bit of GDK being used in my web pages, but it's less of an issue now because I'm using the dark reader extension. So it changes the color of the text so that I can actually read the text. So because of that, I'm using Firefox now. And what really made me decide to give Firefox another spin was DistroTube. He made a video about how Edge going to the Chromium engine just proves how much of a monopoly Google has, basically, and how Google essentially controls the web now, and Firefox is our last hope for that not to happen. So that's what made me reconsider using Chrome, and now I'm using Firefox.
You mentioned that about the theming. I've run into that myself. I build websites, so it's a real problem for me sometimes with that sort of thing. Any browser that overrides the style sheet of a website is a bad thing. And I will say that it's experiences like that, even still now with Firefox, that make me. I'm consciously choosing Firefox because I like their ideals, and I feel like it matters what I, how they treat me as a person and as an individual. But I definitely there are rough edges. They come up with ideas, they put things in, and it's not perfect. It's definitely not as fast as Chromium. It's just not.
Ryan, we're talking about your favorite subject, Google.
That's why I jumped in. I was like, surely you're all talking about the greatness of Google, right? Please don't.
So what would it look like, Ryan, if Google pulled their funding from Mozilla?
Well, I don't think Google will, just from the standpoint of they have to keep the guise of having competition out there. And so I think
you're on the money. It's all about the EU, fellas.
Yeah, so I think it'll be important for them to kind of keep that charade, but obviously they're winning, and they've won, honestly. There was an interesting video out there that somebody who tried to disconnect themselves from Google for a month, and they're really technical minded, not a Linux user technical minded, but a Windows user technically minded. And they could not get away from it because when they would hook up and look, even if they were using everything that wasn't Google, there were so many services that were pinging Google or using a Google backend and everything else that they just couldn't fully get away from it. So Google's there to stay. I think the only thing keeping them in check are these, when I say keeping in check, I use that term loosely, are these companies like Firefox out there who are focusing on that privacy niche right there. And most people, unfortunately, don't care about their privacy at all. I still hear it, even in the Linux community, people going, I don't care if they know that I'm browsing the internet or what am I on my computer. It's fine because they don't get the bigger picture. And I think, unfortunately, most people are there. But Google will keep Firefox around just to kind of have a little toy friend to say, yeah, we've still got competition out there.
And we'll take advantage of that.
Yes, absolutely.
What's the chance, do you think, that's of some large organization that could give funding to Mozilla in order to support them, such as cough, cough, canonical, cough, cough?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's a money problem necessarily. Firefox has actually a pretty good funding structure in place, and they do quite well. I'm sure they would take more, sure, and that could help. They did some amazing things with Quantum and really became a real competitor at that point again, because prior to it, frankly, they just weren't very good at all. But I think the issue is everybody relying on the architecture of Google behind the scenes. And because Firefox is focused on that privacy, they're not going to be able to suck in all of your user information and sell that to companies and create money that way, money streams that way. Therefore, they're not going to create a ton of interest from big corporations the same way that Google will.
I was actually really surprised. I never really looked into what kind of revenues Mozilla, the company, has. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they do pretty well for
I mean, we're not talking $5 or $6 million here. We're talking almost $450 million a year.
Right.
And over 90% of it from royalties, where they let people choose, mostly from what people choose their what they designate in different parts of the world. They have the world chopped up, and where you are in the world is what search engine is the default.
Well, do you remember Excite?
Excite Bike?
Excite. I mean,
Pete's 11 nerds too young to remember Excite.
Yeah.
There are 200 web browsers, but Excite and Alta Vista. Alta Vista being Digital's
search engine.
But with Excite, I don't even remember what the business model was, but I do remember that when I was going to my university and I was part of the help desk there, we're using Excite to index all our internal web pages, and we could turn on and off advertising and stuff like that. And that's that was really a precursor to Google. That was before Google was even the brainchild of someone.
Ooh, Excite has games.
So one thing, and one kind of angle that I don't know that we've really touched on as much is kind of what Ryan said just before, where most people don't really care about the privacy aspect. And the other kind of tangent to that is, I think for a long while there, Firefox was the go-to. I remember, through Firefox 3 and 4 and all that, but then they did lose their way, and Firefox was just not the best browser, and many people took that point to switch over to Chrome, because Chrome came out. Chrome was much better than Firefox at that point, and from a performance standpoint. And most people, they switched over, and then Google exploded, if it hadn't already for them, with Gmail and then maybe their phone and all that kind of stuff. It's just going to be, to me, it's going to be very difficult for people to really look back at that, because that's not something they're thinking about, right? That's not something that ultimately that's probably the last time they ever considered which browser to use.
And also, don't forget, Chrome OS is a big part of this, because Chrome OS is an OS ecosystem in and of itself. It's an OS based off of a browser, if that makes any sense. And they have some market share from that as well, with the schools and all the other people who do not want to mess with viruses on a Windows system, who have never heard of Linux per se. But
hey, you know what? I would throw Android into that mix as well.
Yes, that too.
Well, there was a point brought up in the Europe edition that if you got Firefox to work with the next big thing, like if for some reason the next big game like Apex Legends or Fortnite, one of those type of games would only run in Firefox, you would see the market share boom for Firefox, because most people don't care, and if they can just play what they want to play or do what they want to do in a browser, they would use it. And so I just suggest that Firefox go for one of these indie games and run with it.
I don't think that's the direction they should go in.
I'm just teasing, dude. It's a joke.
So it's really interesting, though, and I want to, sorry to butt in, but I want to take the point to say, I just saw an announcement by the Godot video game engine, yesterday or the day before, that apparently Mozilla had given them funds to work on making sure that you could export to the Firefox browser or something like that.
I know
Yeah.
for myself, I use Firefox most of the time, but I also have two streaming services, DirecTV Now and the Major League Baseball Network, that will only work on my computer in Chrome. They will not stream in Firefox.
Now, will they work in
Yeah.
other Chromium-based browsers, or just Chrome?
I tried DirecTV Now in Chromium. It wasn't working right, but I don't know if it was their end or something in Chromium. It was working fine in Chrome, so I've stuck with that. So, but then again,
Chromium every now and then the open source variant always sometimes has problem with DRM stuff, and I'm going to guess those kinds of streams. They've got the DRM.
So I
also to install the Widevine component. Like if you install the Widevine component, you can do Netflix in Chromium.
That's what I was looking for, and that's actually what Firefox does. It pulls down the wide. It doesn't ship with it, but it downloads it the first time you enable DRM.
Yeah, exactly.
It pulls it
I
down.
don't think Chromium
That's
does
how
that.
Netflix works.
But going back to the privacy thing and the amount of information, most of the people I know they don't have the opinion that they don't care. They resign themselves to the fact there's nothing they can do about it anymore. I mean, I read an article a couple of months ago about a guy who literally, it's basically his full-time job, keeping himself off of the web, or to keep all of his data private. He uses throwaway phones, fake email addresses, and everything else, and it becomes a full-time job like he's a spy.
Right.
I do have to agree with that. It's become very difficult. I mean, even I just went to Disney World last weekend with the kids, and they're like, they wanted a biometric scan of my kids and fingerprint scans. The whole idea behind it, and this is for everybody, the whole idea behind it is they don't want to lose money by apparently people were bringing kids in, and then they would send their other kid out with one of the extra tags to bring another kid in. So they don't want to lose the ticket revenue because Disney, they're dying. They're pretty much out of business. They want to lose that $40. So they want to take biometric scans of your kid. It's tied to an RFID reader on their band and their fingerprints. And we were like, no. And they acted like they were going to kick us out of the park. We were being respectful. We're just like, no, you're not taking biometric scans of my kid, and you're not getting their fingerprints. And eventually they have a workaround system, but they don't want to tell you about that. So you kind of feel like this jerk because other people who are trying, get through, they're kind of like, who is this moron?
You're holding up the line, dude.
Yeah, who doesn't want the biometric scan of their kid all over the internet along with their fingerprints at 6 years old and 4 years old?
Right. I mean,
respectfully. So it is becoming difficult.
Absolutely.
That's part of the problem is people actually really don't care about the technology. They just want to use it and do what they do. Part of it is the social media side of things, where what's being pushed on the younger generation is egocentrism and narcissism to such a high degree that they have lost all care for what is actually happening under the hood. Like what is happening to that data, what is being collected. They really, really don't care.
Yeah. I'm in Seattle, which is pretty much Microsoft town because Redmond is where Microsoft is. Everybody in Seattle works. Their parents work for Microsoft. And I always talk about Linux. So a lot of the kids who have parents who work for Microsoft, they all hate me. Well, somebody who pretty much everybody has an iPhone. Everybody's an Apple sheep, and everybody uses Instagram, TikTok, and what else? Instagram,
Snapchat?
TikTok,
or is that too old?
Snapchat. That's what I was thinking of.
I thought that was dying.
Yeah, it's dead. Yeah, you're right.
Well, Pizza. I mean, they have to hate you. Didn't you hear you're using cancer?
No. Hey. The mindset changed to be honest, the mindset changed with Satya Nadella, to be honest. And he's a lot more open, per se.
Yeah, I know a couple Microsoft employees. They're cool. But I'm just saying, that's just the kind of city Seattle is right now. And so I was telling someone who's using Instagram about all the data collection Instagram did. And they were like, no, Instagram doesn't do that. Facebook does, though. And I was like, Facebook owns Instagram. And they're like, no, they didn't. And then I Googled it and showed them, and they're like, well, Google does data collection too.
JJ, was that your cat or was that you?
That was actually me. I was like,
That was him pretending to be a cat.
Okay.
The cat was digging his claws into.
Well, Pizza, you mentioned iPhone, but really, I
Yeah.
mean, there's only two choices. I mean, it's either Android or iPhone. So I don't think there is much of a choice. Ryan, you had mentioned to me before about iPhones and Android, and you had said about iPhone, the Apple still gathers the info, but it doesn't sell it.
It doesn't sell it, and it stores a lot of the privacy information locally on your phone and does not phone it home. Now, I have this argument all the time in any Linux group because Linux people love Android, and I get it because it's part Linux, except everything about Android is opposite of everything we want on our desktop. It is the least private option. It is the least secure option. It is just an absolute disaster of an operating system. Now, if you take an Android device and you wipe it clean and root it and put something on it like F-Droid or one of the other alternative lineage operating systems, then sure, that's a better alternative, and you can't really do that with an Apple phone.
Well,
but if you want the latest hardware, you're not going to do that to a phone that you just spent $1,000 on. So out of the two crap options we have, and as somebody who's worked in telecom for 19 years and worked with Apple and Google and knows what we're allowed to do on one side with our customers and what the other one doesn't, I'll choose Apple all day, every day. Is it a closed infrastructure? Yes. Do I hate it? Yes. But it's far, far more private.
And I agree with you on that one.
I would be using a custom ROM. It's just my phone doesn't support it.
Yeah.
One thing I like doing though is nobody at my school, which it's funny, everybody's parents work for Microsoft, but nobody at school knows anything about tech. So Apple Music is on Android. And I was listening to Apple Music on my Android phone, and some kid was like, "Whoa, how did you get Apple Music on an Android?" And then I made up that I sideloaded it on, and everybody believed me. People are that stupid. I use it because my dad has it, so
it's a God-given right of all nerds to pull the wool over the eyes of anybody who doesn't know what's going on. This is actually in a second set of commandments that have never been published.
Is that what it is, Dolphin?
Yes.
It's the reason why IT departments and security departments and enterprises they don't understand. They don't want to understand what goes behind some of the technology that they use, or they don't want to. I mean, they always passively want to get their issue resolved via tech support over the phone and get all their answers through there.
You know what's funny, and Ryan makes a great point. Some great points going on. It's a little bit invasive, the lack of security mentality that's come along since the age of the smartphone and Facebook and all that stuff. We're so used to sharing everything. Our company, I'm an engineer. Our company just got a brand new, this plotter weighs 1,200, literally weighs 1,200 pounds. It took them 2 days to assemble this thing. And at the end of it, the tech guy comes, right? And he goes, "Well, I need to set this up so you can scan to your computers." Okay, fine. He said, "Give me the password to your server." No, why would I do that? Why would I give you the password to anything? You're the copier guy.
Be right back. I'm gonna go get some water.
All right.
I love the plotter. It's awesome. But right now, I can't scan to my computer because I would not give him the password to the server. And mostly because I forgot I was an administrator on the server, or I would have logged myself.
Hey, Dolphin, did you take your tinfoil hat off first?
I tell you what, I was so.
When you tell people they don't want it,
not all frustrations with technology had to do with the actual, digital bits floating around. Sometimes they give you the wrong dimension on the 1,200-pound plotter, and all of a sudden you don't have that 11 inches that you thought you had. Because the plotter's only 30 inches wide, but the fuser that goes on the back of it adds another 11 inches. And all of a sudden, we weren't ADA compliant with the hallway. So he couldn't believe I was going to tell him to take this thing back. I didn't really care.
Awesome. Well, to tell you the truth, if I lived in Seattle, I'd probably want to hang out with the Boeing people more than the Microsoft people.
I'd have to hit the coffee shops.
But coffee shops would be good.
Yeah. So I mean, security is inconvenient.
Yeah,
And
I have
convenience is not necessarily secure.
I had a vendor
Especially where data collection is concerned.
put up one of our CNCs, and he wanted to get access through the firewall, start chat systems so they could administer this remotely. And it's like, I can't do that, and good luck in trying to get that through IT security. They won't even let us, download the latest recipe, much less anything else. So.
I don't know if it's anything to be paranoid about, but my wife and I were sitting on the couch. She has her Chromebook open. She's on the web, and we happen to be talking about cat litter. And all of a sudden, she stops and she points at her screen, and this ad pops up about this, motorized, ventilated, cat litter box, and we both look at each other like, how do they know we were talking about that?
That was a total coincidence, Sam. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay. Put my tinfoil hat back down.
I had a very similar thing happen to me. I talked about it earlier on Switch to Linux's open chat. Basically, I was talking to my parents about how I wanted a laptop, and then I went onto my computer and I started getting ads for laptops, and I never Google searched or anything about laptops.
Another coincidence, I think, Rocco.
Yes, definitely. There's nothing to see here.
People, take your tinfoil hats
There's no
off.
spying going on here.
Attention to the man behind the curtain.
Don't worry that everything has a microphone nowadays. Don't worry about that.
Right.
There's actually this YouTube video where a guy basically he held up a piece of paper with a certain product on it, and then he started talking about that product, and then he refreshed a page with a bunch of ads, and then that product showed up for all the ads, and he did it 3 times.
Of course, he fed the beast with that. He talked about it and he put a picture up.
No,
the picture was to Google directly.
That one is
how many picture was for the camera though?
Only one at a time can we talk and hear at the same time. Just saying. Turn it out there.
I just want to put this out there. How many of you guys are using the Cloudflare Quad 1 DNS service at this moment?
Dr. Random wants to know who's using DNS Cloudflare.
Well, it's related because Google's DNS is 8.8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. I'm talking about 1.1.1.1, which is the new big thing among nerds, which could be a defense against using Google DNS, possibly.
I don't actually.
I'm actually running. I'm running that on my Pi-hole, actually.
Yeah, I've used it as well.
I alternate between that and OpenDNS.
I run Google.
Ouch.
Big Pop. They're gonna find out anyway, right, Big Pop?
There is basically they'll find out. If not through DNS, they'll find out because I will search it on a website that has Google statistics. It's absolute it's probably 95% certain that they'll get the data they want.
Actually, Big Pod makes a pretty good point there. You visiting a website don't even control that part. If the website decides they're going to use Google Analytics, yeah, there you go.
There's this
I mean, you can sort of, but it's much more difficult to do that.
Yeah, a lot of times what will happen is if you use an add-on like uBlock or something, you can block a lot of that, but you don't see half the web page or half the things don't work on it or whatever. So,
right, that makes everything perfect.
There's this extension called Ghostery, and it basically gets rid of all trackers, and it's really good.
Except for Ghostery tracks you themselves.
Wait, what?
Oh
yeah.
Of course they do.
Yep.
Of course they do.
That
Why wouldn't they?
That was also in the news.
Wait, you mean a free product isn't free?
What? Are you kidding?
Just don't go on the internet. Isn't that the best way?
That's the only way.
Well, look, I mean, but see, people say that as a Colin, you joked about it, but people say that as a thing, you know, like if you want privacy, stay off the internet. In today's day and age, I think it's pretty much impossible to stay off the internet. You just, all you can do is do the best you can, and everybody draws their line of security and privacy differently. everybody has a different level of how far they're willing to allow things and what things they're willing to allow. And you just got to do the best you can. No, you're never going to be 100% safe, 100% private. You just do the best you can with the services you have.
It's kind of like nobody's
going on the internet every time your phone pings a cell tower.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every time you ping a cell tower, actually ping 3 cell towers, because that's
trilocation.
And that way they can triangulate to the direct location. Actually, I was doing some talks with telephone guys, and yeah, normally it's either 2 or 3 cells you normally ping, not just one. With one, you don't get connection at all.
I just uninstalled.
What were you going to say, Ryan?
I was just going to agree with where you were going with that, Rocco, because I think it's a really valid point, because I've heard the same thing of just stay off the internet. But, you know, when it comes to nobody's unhackable. Like I had my local Linux group today, and Bo Weaver was there, and he's a pen tester. And, you know, nobody is, even him, there's no 100% security option out there. But you make yourself the target so small that for the most part, a hacker's just going to, or somebody wanting to get your data is just going to leave you alone, because why not go after that person that leaves everything open? And I think the same thing happens with the advertisement companies. If you're using a VPN, if you're relatively trying to be safe, if you're not utilizing something ridiculous like a Facebook or an Instagram or one of those tools, then I think for the most part, they're probably more focused on getting that big bulk of 500 billion people that are stupid and don't care about their privacy, versus trying to figure out how to identify you. So they want, you know, they're going for the big fish, the big pool of people. They're not really looking. So I think in a way you do the best you can, just like you do with your security.
I'll agree with that, Ryan. But my son's Domino's Pizza account got hacked while he was at school, and they did not. All they did was set up a new delivery address down in Florida and ordered 60 large pizzas.
I mean, can you blame them? Because
it's delicious. Taste and Domino's Pizza notwithstanding, at least the credit card company said that's probably not bogus. It's probably bogus. They called them, and you go through the thing. So it's not always the big fish.
No, certainly not. But I think that if we probably dissected that situation, that password probably might not have been 100% secure.
Oh no, his password
managers.
Yeah, like password 123, or what was that one we used to joke about all the time?
Pizza was the password.
Pizza was not the password, but it was pretty bad.
Well, I mean, they're the big pool of people because they're using, passwords like password.
Yes, we had a very long discussion about password managers after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Which Bitwarden was the answer, right?
Obviously.
Okay, cool.
Or Firefox Lockbox.
That's a good one. Yeah, absolutely.
Just going back to mobile phones, Rocco, I'm really hoping that Librem 5 comes out.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping on that. I've got a Samsung S5 here. I'll hold on to that until I can get a Librem 5. I want a Linux phone.
I love the idea of a Linux phone. Yeah. I just don't know if we are close enough to have that happen and be a reality and be as stable as you need your phone to be. Your phone is pretty much something you use every day, and it has to be reliable. So I love the idea of the Linux phone.
Yep.
It's coming. It's going to be here soon, sometime. But how close we are to rock solid stable, I don't know.
The theory is nice. The execution.
Yes, exactly.
Ryan,
Perfect.
how close is Michael Tunnell doing with his UbiPorts challenge?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get a video in about 6-7 years, but by that time, all the bugs will be worked out. I think he's doing good. I mean, I've made a few calls with him and texted and things back and forth. The UbiPorts team's done an amazing job. I've honestly, being in telecom and looking at what they've achieved, if you look back at Apple and Android and all this stuff, it took them years to get all these features that we expect now on our phone to get working. I mean, Apple, how long did it take them to get cut and paste It was like years, right? And so, they have all of those little tiny things that people ignore, and they go, well, wait, I don't have my Facebook app. Defeats the whole purpose. So there are things that you lose, and it's not perfect, but they are doing an amazing job. Taking them aside and looking at the bigger picture with the Linux phone thing, which is my dream, to have a device like that, though, is it going to be a situation where nobody cares unless somebody does something unique? And I think the most unique thing out there is DeX. And the idea of having a full desktop capability on your phone. And for the first time, we have phones that have desktop-like power with quad-core CPUs, 4 to 8 gigabytes of RAM, the super fast memory and storage capabilities and all of this. So you could run, if you do it right, a full operating system on that. What's more modular than Linux? So I would be looking for the person that can give me a phone that I can dock somewhere and have the full Linux experience right out of the box. And I think that would be, even though many people have tried and failed, I think a lot of the failure generally comes from the fact that most of the OSs and things are either too limited, Chrome, or too bloated, Windows, to be successful in that arena, whereas Linux could, I think, be successful there.
All right, so I wasn't going to say anything. Go ahead, Silent.
It kind of goes back to the previous discussion in the earlier stream about the Firefox scenario. It's always like it's going to take an event of some kind to make people care.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's been so many events and they still don't care.
Yeah.
That's the shocking part. But I agree with you. I used to say that too.
I wasn't gonna bring this up, but now that you brought it up, and we're running out of time, but I'm still going to bring it up anyway.
Right.
We talk about convergence and Linux and DeX, okay? And I had the pleasure or bad experience, however way you want to look at it, of using a Mac with an iPhone for a week or two.
Okay.
And
It's
that
so convenient.
that is the exact picture of what everybody pictures convergence and Linux and DeX to be. I can sit down, plug in the iPhone, and everything that was on my iPhone pictures wise or whatever is instantly on my computer, and vice versa. And it's a shame that we cannot have that in Linux right now. But I'm sorry, but Mac OS does that amazingly. Now,
So-
whether you like them as a company or not is another whole story, but that is an amazing experience of what they bring to put everything
I think
together.
one of the things with that is that they control the hardware, they control the software, and there right there is probably why it works. And I have a Mac, and I love the fact that my Mac and my phone and my iPad all work. I can start a message, I can send a message on one machine and finish it up on another.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you pull your AirPods out of a box, brand new, and you flip the lid open. Your phone automatically, without doing anything, pops up, says, "These are your new AirPods. Do you want to sync them and put a passcode on them?" Yes, done. It's done. You set up a new Apple TV. You pull it out of the box. You plug it in. Your phone instantly pops up. Is that your new Apple TV? It's just an incredible experience.
It
And
is.
That
that is something we could do on Linux.
I feel
But-
like sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I feel like that the Librem 5 though is a little bit too expensive for the specs you're getting. I mean, what you're paying for is obviously supporting a company that supports Linux and having a phone that runs Linux. But for me, what I value is what you get for the price, which is why I have a Nokia 6.1. So for me, I think buying a Nexus 5 and putting USB ports on it would be better for me.
Good.
I'm going to say that in the 2 weeks that I ran that Mac, I could have easily been a Mac fanboy. For the experience and the cohesion between the iPhone and the computer itself, it was awesome.
But it
And
goes
what you
away
ex-
the second you try to plug anything in and need 55 dongles. So
Yeah, that's why I like my
Not only
Dolphin.
that,
Dolphin, go ahead. You've been trying to get something in. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what you experience is convergence of the services. And when we talk about convergence, when I've come out against a little bit with the DeX and with some of the other hardware convergence ideas, Ryan's idea of taking your phone, taking it everywhere, plugging it in, using it as a computer. I think that's a dead end. What you're talking about, where every service runs on every device and everything's actually in the back end. And actually, you're talking about sync. You were also talking about local sync too.
Mm-hmm.
The Windows Phone did that 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Windows CE, not the Windows Phone that we think of, Windows Phone with the sliding tiles, but the old one with the hard buttons and all that stuff. And the Dell Axiom and the Sharp Zaurus, which was Linux, is a Linux palm top. And that thing was awesome. I had one. It had a 15-foot long cord that came with it, and I couldn't figure out why until I turned the Wi-Fi on and it was gone in 10 minutes, but that's okay. That's why your handheld comes with a 15-foot long power cord. So the service convergence on the back end is something that is, I can see that happening. And actually, if you think about it, Dropbox does that. You have Dropbox on all kinds of machines. You got KDE Connect trying to do something similar between phones and the Linux desktop. I could see something like that totally happening. I actually wish Apple would roll out a client for the Linux. Because I've got stuff in the Apple architecture and the Apple ecosystem that I can't easily pull onto my Linux machine. I really like to be able to. I mean, music's easy because they got rid of the DRM on the music, but can't watch a movie and that kind of thing. Well, that kind of plug in all the services, everything syncing, that sort of convergence I could see, because that's multiple devices. You're not taking that iPhone and plugging it into a monitor somewhere and running Mac OS. I just don't think the experience that people think they're going to get out of a phone. I mean, maybe the phones are a lot more powerful than they are now, but battery technology is not advancing that fast, guys. I mean,
think about it, Dolphin. If you're docking, though, you're going to have the power source. So I agree with you there. But
the power's going through the battery. You ever felt how hot your phone gets when it's plugged into a power source and trying to use it? That is serious heat.
Not get that hot, honestly. But yes, I've had phones that do that. But I think when you're paying over $1,000 for a phone, I think the expectation of people should be, and likely that's why everybody is pushing for convergence right now. Apple is pushing for convergence heavily. I think Google is pushing for convergence heavily. It will be interesting to see what Microsoft does. There are a lot of rumors about them coming back into the phone market and things, but I don't know if they're true, but that's what's going. I think the push is, if you're spending that kind of money, the expectations are higher. You are now spending more on your phone than the laptop costs. I was walking through the store today, and the average laptop cost was between $400 and $500. Your average phone, your new phones now are $1,000 plus, $1,000, $1,200. What is the new foldable one that was like $1,800?
Yeah, ridiculous.
2,000 something.
See, this is actually this argument that the phones are so powerful and so expensive is actually why I think having one device is crazy.
Yeah,
because that phone, they all sleek and soft, and they all got their non-user replaceable batteries, and you replace that phone every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to spend that kind of money on a computer? You just said it. Computers are cheap. Right. This laptop that I use right here, I got used for $250, and I actually got another $30 off the thing because the guy
depends on what you're getting.
Specs.
Well, looking at the very near future, we got Azure, and we're going to see desktop as a subscription service.
I got this lap. Sorry.
And so, I mean.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
So I mean, we got the desktop as a subscription service coming up, along with Azure coming in not only as a public cloud provided by Microsoft, but as private clouds that companies are putting up. So how is a synchronization or a convergence of, let's say, a phone with a desktop going to be affected by having a thin client? Essentially is what you're going to have.
See, I would actually accept this notion that all the convergence that's going to happen is going to happen on the back end, and it's not going to matter what device you actually use. But it's your device that you use is probably not going to be the same device in all situations.
Yeah.
It should be system agnostic, really.
Mhm.
So, Dolphin, you said who's going to spend $1,000 on there? So I just looked up Apple's 2018 sales statistics in 2018 when they sold the first $1,000. 46.7 million people apparently are going to spend $1,000 on a.
Okay, but even Apple sells a laptop.
Yeah,
You know,
but they're trying to move away from that. They're honestly, they have done nothing but try. Even their latest commercials, where the kid turns around and goes, "What's a computer?" They want to sell their tablets. They want to sell their phones.
I won't argue. I won't argue that point. But what they're selling services.
Yeah.
What they're trying to sell services.
And that service is actually a really good service. I gotta say, it is a
If
really
you're on
good
Apple
service.
hardware, it's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
But here's the other thing with, we say they're selling a service. If you already have an Apple device, you can, and I have actually used my, running a bunch of Mate, gotten on my iCloud account, used, their pages or whatever it is, just to see if I could do it. And I've transferred files back and forth. And I can, I couldn't find my phone one day. So I got on and I actually started to find my phone. And it was buried somewhere in the recliner. But yeah.
The cat took it, Barb.
Yeah, I have a thief. Yeah, I do. One of mine is a thief. But they at least, I think they at least they saw that, yeah, it's Linux, but they let me in, to get whatever. But
All
if
right.
you're running Chrome OS, you can't.
Look, we are over time here, so the conversation is awesome, but we got to end it because we got to end it sometime.
Yeah.
But everybody gets the last word. So, Chris, last word.
Well, just play around with Sabian already. I kind of like the beginning. It has a whole bunch of diagnostics ability and stuff like that. So this is going to be a fun challenge, and hope to see you guys next week.
Awesome. Bash, last word.
So, Google, that was not me that said any of those mean things about you. It was all the rest of these people. So,
wow, throw us under the bus.
I love it.
United we stand here.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Bash. All right, Peter, last word.
Love the Linux community, especially y'all. And thanks to everyone who has watched my unboxing video for the System 76 video. Yeah. It's awesome, loving it. It now has 330 views.
Peter, if you post a link in the Zoom chat, I'll post it in the YouTube chat.
I already did.
All right, dig it.
And YouTube.
All right, dig it. Barbara, last word.
I think this was actually a really fun time tonight, especially our opinions on the best file manager.
Dolphin. Colin, last word.
Open as root. Anyway,
Dolphin.
Thanks for the video.
Root.
Dolphin does root.
Hey, have you ever
thanks for the stream, Rocco. Excellent. Looking forward to trying Savion. I probably know nothing about it, so that'll be interesting. And
Dolphin.
Yep, Librem 5. I really hope it gets somewhere
With Dolphin.
with Dolphin.
All right, Eric, last word.
Thanks for hosting. Dolphin is great, and whatever Colin thinks is completely wrong.
Exactly. Adam,
see you next week.
Where were you when we were talking about Apple, dude? I needed your backup, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
last word.
So, thanks for the time out here. If you guys need access to the modern web, it's chrome.google.com. That'll serve everything.
All right, Big Pod, last word.
Okay, thanks for having us, and time to try my new USB that I bought just for distro hopping for distro challenges.
First distro on there, Sabian.
Yeah.
Dan, last word, brother.
Hey, thanks for hosting. It's great to two lug meetings this week on Saturday, so that's pretty awesome.
Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you all, and see you when we converge again next week.
Pizza, last word.
Thanks for hosting. If you need access to the modern web, go to firefox.org. And also buy a Nexus 5X and put UB ports on it.
There you go.
Silent?
Not 5X.
The 5.
Dolphin, for having me. It's always a pleasure. I love the dolphin community. And dolphin is root.
Wonder which file manager Silent likes the best.
I don't know why.
Dolphin, last word.
Oh, you talk about me now?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
So first off, thanks out there to the test disk and photo rec guys, because you saved the bacon of one of the guys in my office this week. Also proving the viability of having a live USB in your pocket for data recovery chores. Yeah. And also, if you have a live USB in your pocket all the time, make sure you clean the lint out of the thing every now and then, because it'll fit the USB port a lot better that way.
Good tip.
Pro tip.
Sam, last word.
Thank you for having the stream. Thank you for having me in. I've been, like I said, lurking for the past month or so. Don't quite understand all of it yet, being a somewhat novice Linux user, but I'm picking up more stuff. And actually was able to fix the one problem I had in Salient by myself, because after hearing the horror stories of Arch, oh no, don't try it. But and I having been on with Toss and with Steve's very own, this community is just amazing.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
All right, Ben, you're up, sir.
All right. Thanks for having me. Sorry I'm late. I just thanks to all the Linux teams. I downloaded 3 flavors of Sabayon, GNOME, Plasma, and the Fluxbox one. I'm gonna check out all 3. Just
nice.
see what's up.
Very nice. JJ.
Alrighty, thanks very much, Rocco, for having the stream, and for all you guys who want to converse after the show, there's the Discord. That's BigDaddyLinux.com/Discord. And no, I'm not paid for that because I'm not paid for that. Just putting that out there.
Sounds like he's paid for it, folks.
It sounds like he's paid for it, but he's not. Ryan, last word.
I just really want to say thank you for having such a great discussion on why Arch is the greatest OS out there and why Team Red is superior to any of the plebs out there using NVIDIA. I love that everyone here supports that idea. What a great discussion. Thank you, Rocco.
Well, you got half of it right. The Arch part.
I am literally proving that every Arch meme is correct.
Team Green for the win. That's all I'm saying. Frank, last word.
Rocco, just thank you for hosting as always. And I know we have Silent and Dolphin on. Thank you. I've done some stuff recently, and I wanted to point out that I have a much greater appreciation for what you guys do to get distros out. It is an incredibly awesome job that you guys do, and you guys do not get enough recognition for the work that goes on behind the scenes. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Totally agree.
Well, thanks. I personally probably get too much recognition, but thank you. We got a great team.
All right, this was an awesome discussion. Thank you each and every one of you for showing up. If you want to join us in the Telegram group during the week and tell us about your woes of trying Sabayon, join us at BigDaddyLinux.com/Telegram. Other than that, we'll see you next week. And remember, long live Linux.
See y'all.
Good night.
Later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Team Red.
Dolphin.
Team
Dolphin.
Media.
True narc.
Have you ever tried